So I know the thumbnail I end up using in this video will probably be a little clickbaity, but I just want you guys to take a second to look at what's going on my screen right now, and I think you can see what I mean. Guys, I think Wuthering Waves Combat peaked in Septimon. It feels a little bloated at this point. I know a lot of CCs have been talking about this. It's not just me. People would talk about HP inflation, the lack of buffs for older characters, rotation slop, as they say. Me, I ignored all of that because I've been pulling all the newest characters. It wasn't until I experienced the latest Tower of Adversity on my friend's account where I started to put together all these issues everybody's been talking about. When I first started playing Wuthering Waves, it felt like the combat was getting better and better. I started playing around the PS5 launch. I think Carlotta was on the banner, and I guess Carlotta was a skill issue character, but at the same time she made you feel like you were doing something. But this was my first introduction to Wuthering Waves, so it felt good to play Carlotta, and at the same time it was really easy to play Carlotta. And as I said, things just kept getting better and better. You had the Mono Fusion team, Brad, Lupa Chang Lee, which to this day for me was the funnest team in the game. You have Augusta Yuno, you have Farlova, who's probably the best designed character in the game. She does everything. Even Zani Quick Swap is pretty fun if you know how to do it, I'll admit. And even the bosses in Septimon felt like that perfect medium of interactive and fair, but also challenging. There were some that do annoying attacks, I won't lie. But overall, I feel like the bosses of Septimon and the holograms and all that, it felt manageable. But when it comes to the latest boss designs, I mean, tell me that anybody who's fought level 6 Signium, tell me your first thought wasn't, okay, now he's just cheating. And I think the beginning of the end for me is when they released Galbraina and they had tacked on Echo Skill damage to her set. It just felt like they were just tacking on this new damage mechanic, and then came negative status, and then came Toon Break. At first this just felt like another way to play the game, but it feels like they slowly started balancing the game around these damage types and ignoring everything else except heavy damage. For some reason they seem to love heavy damage, and that's what I mean when I say I feel the game is too bloated, because they added all these new meta damage types and started ignoring everything else, which led to the older characters feeling under-tuned. I think there's a pretty obvious fix to this. Buff older units curl games and give Jinsei her goddamn support. Now let's talk about rotation slop. A lot of players might not understand this compared to older players, but the older units felt more interactive, meaning we actually had to dodge, counter, parry, anticipate the boss movements, manage our buffs, interact with the video game. But it seems like with new characters like Imith or Hiyuki, listen, I love this spectacle. It looks really cool and flashy when they're on screen, but how much of this involves my input? You know what I mean? Because with Imith, they call her the glorified cutscene character, where a majority of her gameplay is you watching her do flashy things. And then there's Hiyuki, not to mention if you play her with Lucilia, half the time you're immune or invulnerable to damage. Hiyuki's team is like the complete opposite of the Mono Fusion team. This gotta be the most boring team in the game. And on top of it all, the newer units have little to no variety or skill expression. And this is where the rotation slop accusations come into play. You essentially are just playing a quick time event, tapping your heavy attack when you need to, tapping your skill when it lights up, switching to the next character, rinsing and repeat, with absolutely no room for error or skill expression. Again, the best way I could describe the rotation slop gameplay of the recent units is that you put everything into buffing your main DPS, and you basically play a quick time event with the heavy attack and the skill button and the ultimate, and the monsters are pretty much cannot hurt you while you're doing this. And I get it, it's a phone game. You have to make it of ease of use so that people who run this stuff on a potato or are playing on mobile can also play the game. But I feel like they should do what it felt like they did with characters like Carlotta versus somebody like Zani, where you can kind of switch between designing units that are based around, rotation swap, and then you can have other units that are more designed about quick swap. And if you don't know what quick swap is, it's basically an exploit where you switch characters while your other characters is still in the middle of their move. So it's kind of like you're doing 2 moves at one time, and it's kind of like a little meta trick that players have developed. It's kind of a really fun way to play the game. But Hero Games has been designing units that discourage quick swap, or it'll screw up your whole rotation. So I don't think every unit should be designed as complex. I think they should alternate between making these rotation swap units and units with skill expression, but that's just me. And the last thing I want to talk about is the end game. So like I said earlier, I've had no problem with end game because I've made sure I got Toon Break covered, made sure I got negative status covered. The only thing I really don't have is, believe it or not, an aerial DPS. But I have pretty much every damage type in the game, so I don't really notice when Tower of Adversity is an issue. It's a breeze for me. Wuthering Waves is another story. But this latest Tower of Adversity wanted either Toon Break or negative status. And on this account, I had both Toon Break and negative status, but both those teams were Spectral. And the final boss was a Spectral boss. So I just couldn't clear this. There's something that's just really infuriating about knowing you have the skill to do something, but you just don't have the characters or the weapons or whatever. Technically, a lot of people say if you sweat, if you try hard, if you build the right units, all this stuff is doable. It sure sucks having to do multiple runs and repeat just because you didn't get the right amount of crits or you didn't perfect your rotation slot. So 2 ways I would solve the endgame of Wuthering Waves. Simply give some buffs from time to time that don't only favor negative status and Toon Break for once. Also, a brand new endgame idea. I heard through leaks they're coming up with a new endgame. I doubt it'll be like this. I don't know what it's going to be. But a cool endgame idea I thought of is, why not just take the numbering system from Devil May Cry and just design an endgame which isn't based around killing the boss as fast as possible, but killing the boss in stylish ways. Parrying and dodging can contribute greatly. Doing the same thing over and over could penalize you. Maybe if you go in with only 2 or 1 person, you get a multiplier. And this would encourage people to post their cool gameplay clips online. I don't know, man. I think I'm a genius. I think it's a good idea. But that's pretty much my thoughts on the current state of Wuthering Waves. Endgame, it's still one of the greatest combat systems in gacha games. It's just a little bloated at this point. We need to pull it back, reel it in. I feel like this patch should be a filler patch in terms of power creep. Nobody should be stronger than what we have now. Focus on bringing the older characters to a more level playing field. Ease up on the shilling and Tower of Adversity. Realize there are other characters in this game that don't use Echo Skill, Toon Break, and negative status. And buff Jinsei. That's all I have to say. Oh, I almost forgot to talk about the bosses. Lehigh Roy introduced some bosses to this game that, I don't know, man, they kind of lost me. You could say skill issue, but they kind of lost me when they started adding the Gundams into the game. Tell me why Signium slow-mos the game, and when I parry him like I'm supposed to, like I've been trained to parry this entire game, he takes half my HP and comes around with the finisher attack. What kind of troll hacks is this? Anyway, skill issue, rant over. That's all I gotta say. For real this time.